Good evening, family. Welcome this evening to Bible Way Community Baptist Church, the place where Jesus Christ is still the Lord of all and the Word of God still transforms lives. We are excited and delighted that you've tuned in this evening to be a part of our Wednesday night Bible study. We hope and pray that you've been having a good day and a real good week in the Lord. And let me just take a moment to invite you out to our church this Sunday morning at 11 o'clock right here at Bible Way Community Baptist Church. Matter of fact, let me invite you to Sunday school. Our Sunday school are what we call now our life groups, because you need a group of people to help you do life together. And so we call that life group. So come and join up. We have several groups that you can choose from. 9:35 our Sunday school, our morning worship is at 11 o'clock. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with having a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we do thank you, we do praise you for who you are, the God who hears, and you still answer prayer. Speak to our hearts now in a mighty way. Lead me, guide me, and direct me in all that I say and do, so that honor and glory can be ascribed to your holy and righteous name. This we ask in Jesus' name, and for its sake we pray. Amen. All right. We are still dealing with contemporary issues. Tonight we want to look at something. Is global warming a hoax? Is it a hoax? Is that a trick, ladies and gentlemen? This thing, global warming. You hear, global warming. You hear climate change. It goes up under different names and what have you. But I want to know if it's a hoax. Is this thing something we need to be concerned about or not? Matter of fact, I asked several questions tonight. Will climate change force us to buy electric cars? And will climate change force us to stay in 15-minute cities? Will climate change force us to stop eating meat? Will climate change force us to eat bugs? Will climate change, or do the policy of climate change hurt the poor? Or do the founder of the Weather Channel, do he believe in climate change? Well, let's go on and get started, because this thing, all of us need to be concerned about climate change, because this is the planet. This is the only place that we can stay besides this and heaven. And so you got to stay here until you go to heaven. But a lot of people don't know really what I'm talking about. So let me ask you to just watch this, and I think this will set the stage. So watch this.
What's gone into them?
They're all worked up today.
We found something extraordinary. Extraordinary and disturbing, that is. You recall what you said about how polar melting might disrupt the North Atlantic current?
Yes.
Well, I think it's happening.
Folks, we've hit some unusual turbulence. We've encountered a cloud layer that's abnormally high.
You all right?
Please remain seated.
He's afraid of flying.
The government has to start making long-term preparations now.
Jack, all you have is a theory.
It's been raining like this for 3 days now.
Mr. Vice President, if we don't act now, it's going to be too late.
I'm afraid that time has come and gone, my friend.
What can we do?
Save as many as you can.
The storm is just gonna get worse.
What should we do?
I will come for you. Do you understand me?
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. So you saw that was a movie called The Day After Tomorrow. Because of the world is climate change is getting so hot and things like that. The climate is affecting the whole world, and so we're gonna see more tornadoes. We're gonna see more hurricanes. We're gonna see more earthquakes. We're gonna see more flooding. We're gonna see the world is thawing out. The Antarctic and stuff, and so when all that ice melts, floods and what have you, and just like you saw there in the movie, because it's getting so warm, the world is eventually going to come to an end. But the thing is, when I was a little boy, a teenager, I can remember back in the 70s, ladies and gentlemen, they was talking about how the world was getting too cold. And because the world is getting so cold now that we getting ready to have another ice kind of, I forget what they called it, but an ice age, an ice age. And the world is getting ready to freeze over. And so people was kind of scared that the world was going to freeze over back in the 70s. But I know you don't know what I'm talking about. So watch this.
At least 8 times in the past million years, it has advanced and retreated with clockwork regularity. If we are unprepared for the next advance, the result could be hunger and death on a scale unprecedented in all of history. What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
In 1977, the worst winter in a century struck the United States. Arctic cold gripped the Midwest for weeks on end. Great blizzards paralyzed cities of the Northeast. One desperate night in Buffalo, 8 people froze to death in marooned cars. Pat Bushnell was on the road that night.
Traffic just absolutely stopped. I was afraid of being stuck in the car all night long with the cold and the wind running out of gas. And then what? I think that if we had to go through a real bad winter, just like we just went through, I think we'd have to think about moving someplace else.
Move where? The brutal Buffalo winter might become common all over the United States. Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected. At weather stations in the far north, temperatures have been dropping for 30 years. Seacoasts, long free of summer ice, are now blocked year-round. According to some climatologists, within a lifetime, we might be living in the next ice age. Of the 9 planets in our solar system, only Earth has conditions favorable to human life.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Now, did you see that they had Mr. Sparks? Back during that time, Star Trek, was was, you know, one of the big shows, and so they had Spark. They got him to be one of the spokesperson for, you know, this climate change and what have you. And so he was letting us know that if we don't fix this thing, that we getting ready to have an ice age. It's finna freeze over. So now you think about it. 50 years ago, they were saying the world finna freeze over. Now 50 years later, 40, 50 years later, they're saying, oh, it's too hot, it's too hot. So that's why I'm saying, is this thing a hoax, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, something don't seem to be quite right. And see, they used to call it global warming, but about 10, 15 years ago, because it started getting back cold again, they said, well, we're just going to call it climate change, climate change. But I got some questions that I want to ask because something don't seem to be quite right. But if we get into this climate change, because it seems like they're trying to change the world. See, I believe that this is part of the New World Order. And my question that I want to raise, first of all, will climate change force us to buy electric cars? Now, a lot of people say, yes, we're going to have to buy electric cars. We're going to have to get away from gas cars, got to get away from gas trucks and diesel and stuff, and we got to go total electric. But I know you don't really want to believe me, do you? So watch this.
They're among America's fastest selling cars. Average price an eye-popping $58,000. Electric vehicles, EVs, make up 7% of new car sales. Now the Biden administration wants to accelerate the green revolution with tougher emission standards. And industry sources say requiring that EVs make up at least 54% of automakers' new car sales by 2030, 2/3 of sales by 2032.
Running on a cleaner grid, making and inventing the technologies that are going to power the future.
Automakers are already investing billions to transition from gas to electric. General Motors CEO Mary Barra.
The quicker we can bring everyone along to EVs, the better it's going to be for climate.
We've seen the green revolution firsthand from the assembly line. 3,000 pounds of lithium-ion cells helping the Hummer to accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. To the front line. Eventually, they want to take their whole fleet electric. Just 2 years ago, automakers agreed that EVs would make up half their sales by 2030. Now the industry says the new White House goals aren't realistic. Writing in a statement, this requires a massive 100-year change to the U.S. industrial base and the way Americans drive.
And there are a lot of things that have to happen to get us to a full EV culture,
including raw materials, charging stations, and the electric grid to power it. For now, sticker shock may convince many Americans to stick with their gas guzzlers. Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
Wow. See, President Biden, he's all for these electric cars, and he said, man, not only do we gotta go on and get the cars out there, we gotta even speed it on up. We gotta speed it on up. And so by 2030, he want, you know, just about all the cars to be electric cars. And see, that's only, you know, 5-6 years away, ladies and gentlemen. Now, see, the problem that I have with this, and with his policies there, it's eliminating choice. One of the things I like about here in America is you got a choice whether or not you want to have a car, or whether you want to have a truck, or you can have a diesel truck, or you can have a gas truck, or you can have a hybrid, a combination. But he want to go with this electric. He want to go with this electric. And my thing is, have we seen something like this before? Is this a play from Hitler's playbook? Watch this.
To understand the Beetle, it helps to know its strange and sometimes disconcerting history. Specifically, the car that became a hippie icon and Hollywood star actually traces its roots back to Hitler's Third Reich. The name Volkswagen in German means people's car, and the Volkswagen Beetle was originally intended to be exactly that, a car for the people. In the early days of the automotive industry, cars were a luxury only the wealthiest could afford. Of course, this began to change when makers such as Henry Ford pioneered production methods that made cars accessible to the everyman. At that time, the term Volkswagen was not yet a brand name, but a term used in automotive circles to describe a relatively new concept of the people's car, a vehicle that would be attainable for the masses. The idea of mass motoring also appealed to Adolf Hitler, who had risen to power in Germany in 1933 and was reputed to be quite a car enthusiast. An engineer named Ferdinand Porsche, yes, that Porsche, submitted a proposal to the new German government to design a small, lightweight people's car in 1934.
Ferdinand Porsche was directed to create a people's car for Germans to travel the new roads and also to be used as military vehicles.
Though several other automakers had also presented designs for a people's car, Hitler took up Porsche's idea, in large part because of Porsche's reputation in racing. It was this design that would later become the Volkswagen Beetle. In 1938, the National...
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Now, see, Hitler, man, they loved, the German people loved Hitler because Hitler was going to put a car in every man's yard. Yeah, and they called it the Volkswagen. And the Volkswagen was the people's car. That's what it was called, the people's car. And so everybody is going to have a Volkswagen, going to have a people's car. But notice now, you're not going to have no choice. It's not much of a choice. You either get the people's car or you get no car. And so you got to choose between the people's car or no car. Just like us, you got to choose now between having an electric car or no car. That's why I say this is a play from Hitler's playbook. And so will climate change force us to buy electric cars? It sure will. It sure will. Yes, yes. Number two, will climate change force us to stay in 15-minute cities? Will it force us to stay in 15-minute cities? They're trying to come up with something now where to eliminate so much fog and, smog, smog, and air pollution and stuff. They say they got to cut back on people driving so. And so they want to have your job, your school, your church, everything that you need within really walking distance. They want to eliminate and want to put us on bicycles and what have you. So will it force us to stay in 15-minute cities? So well, you don't know what I'm talking about. So watch this.
The big thing that's happening at the moment in the UK are 15-minute cities. They're splitting the city up where you can get from one place to the other within 15 minutes. So if you travel out there, you get a fine through the post.
So they're creating ghettos. You have a ghetto, an economic zone that you have no freedom to get out of. And if you do, you will be punished economically and or socially because the government wants you to obey and be limited in your reach, to limit your ideas and your influence with other areas that might change the political structure. They are enslaving. That is slavery.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. So you see, basically, it's like a circle here, and they carve it up by 4. They carve it up by 4, and so 15 minutes here is just like a clock. You're looking at a clock here. And so they got the city carved up into 4. And so you ought to be able to get everything on this side of town, and they don't want you to come to the other side of town. If you got to come to the other side of town, now you got to pay to come to the other side town. And so basically, they really, to tell you the truth, like that man said, they creating ghettos. That's what the ghetto was. When black people, they left Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, went up north like to Chicago and what have you, they built these big giant projects, you know, like you saw on Good Times and stuff. And they put thousands of people in these big giant projects. Then they put a school right close by. They put a grocery store or something close by. And you was just in walking distance. Remember James and Florida and them on Good Time? They didn't have no car. They were just in walking distance. And that's basically what that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a ghetto. But ladies and gentlemen, we done saw this before. This is a play from Hitler's playbook. But you don't want to believe me, do you? Watch this.
On September the 1st, 1939, the Germans invaded Poland, which was the official beginning of World War II. Whereas in Germany, the Germans had to control 500,000 or so Jews, many of whom had already left. In Poland, they had 3 million Jews throughout the country to figure out how to control and account for them. The reason then that they established ghettos, which were in the poorest parts of town, they could do 3 things. They could concentrate them all in one place, they could control them, and they could take all of the possessions from the homes that the Jews had abandoned, because they were only allowed to take what they could carry. So you can see here the model of the Lodz ghetto with the bridge, which was one of the limited number of entrances or exits to the ghetto. And if you can see quickly or closely, you would see very, very cramped and crammed circumstances. It was in the poorest part of town, and interestingly, the ghetto was not the invention of the Germans. It was invented 400 years earlier by the Italians in Venice. And it was one of many things that the Germans took from history to abuse and control the Jews. Because they were crammed into apartments and some of them had to live on the streets, you can imagine that the hygiene, the water, food, sanitation was very, very compromised. The old, the young, the ill, most of them did not survive. So how did you survive? Virtually any way that you could. You can see a man bartering his goods there, a young boy who tried to steal some bread. They worked in factories. You can see leather factory here. You can see a very young Leo Wolf, whose name you've probably heard before in the museum, in a factory here. Interestingly, the Germans allowed the Jews to establish a governing council called the Judenrat, which really had no power. This council made the Jews available to work in the ghettos, thinking that this would allow the Jews to survive longer. Schools and synagogues were forbidden, and there could be reprisals if they were discovered. But the Jews did these in an underground way. They did establish schools, they did establish synagogues, and they did continue to have life as much as normal. Eventually, the Germans emptied out the ghettos and sent the remaining inhabitants off to either concentration, slave, or labor camps, or death camps.
Wow. See that, ladies and gentlemen? Hitler got all the Jews on one side of town, put them all in one area there. And then he eliminated their cars and stuff where they couldn't, they couldn't really ride the train, public transportations and stuff. So he really made it hard on these Jews. And so he created a ghetto where they just stayed in this one place. And basically, that's control, ladies and gentlemen. That's control. And this is the thing about climate change. You're going to see it's more about people control than anything else. Yeah, they bring it on a new world order. Well, so will climate change force us to stay in 15-minute cities? Yes. Will climate change force us to stop eating meat? Will it force us to stop eating meat? What you talking about? Force us to stop eating meat? Well, some folks say yes. Some folks say no, but what do you say? Well, just watch this.
Christina, thanks so much. Meanwhile, thanks to a recent FDA approval, the California-based company Upside Foods can now sell its lab-grown meat products. Now, the idea being animal cell culture technology would take living cells from chickens, then grow those in a controlled environment to make meat. And in an interview, the company's CEO detailed exactly how their product is different from the rest.
In time, we expect our products to be at parity with conventional meat, but that's going to be 5 to 15 years away. The only thing that's missing is raising and slaughtering an animal, but this is chicken cells that are growing into meat. So we expect it to be positioned in a supermarket or a grocery aisle right where meat products are sold, whether it's frozen aisles or refrigerated or fresh, not next to vegetarian products, because this is not vegetarian.
And here to discuss, please welcome dairy farmer and agriculture advocate Stephanie Nash. Great hat, Stephanie. Great to have you with us. So what do you think about the lab-grown meat?
I think it's an attack on our food security. As farmers and ranchers around this country continue to fight for your food supply, we are seeing higher regulations, higher bills, higher taxes. Inflation is not only affecting everyday Americans, but it's really affecting your agriculture community. You have to wonder, why are they pushing alternatives in lab-grown meat so aggressively? Number one, it's an investment for them. They are throwing billions of dollars into this research, and they are attacking agriculture, saying that we're the problems for emissions, and they can make a planet the better, a safer place for Americans. But the truth is, most of these scientists, most of these politicians are investing in housing developments. They are clearing land. They are not, living off the land. They are just taking away the soil and the richness that agriculture could be providing.
But the company's CEO does say that their product won't cut down on industrial farming because they still need the animals to actually make their lab-grown meat, because it's based on animal cells. So do you think this will actually reduce the demand for farms overall, or can they coexist?
No, I don't think they can coexist. Here's the deal. When you introduce a cell lab-grown processing plant, it gives the federal government an excuse to say that if farmers and ranchers can't produce the product, well, here's an alternative, and we're going to start introducing it into your diet. We're going to start regulating family farmers and ranchers more to eliminate agriculture. I think it's an attack on family farmers and ranchers. I do not believe that this should be in the United States. You see the Netherlands, their prime minister, their government, they're going to take out 3,000 farms by this regulation. And the Biden administration wants to take over our land. They want to put it in federal government hands. And so I'm sorry, but the USDA and the FDA are trying to introduce a product that should never be there. Let the family farmer rancher provide, and let us do our job, because we're the best at it.
Yeah.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Now they coming up with synthetic meat, and the sad thing about it is you're not going to be able to distinguish between real meat and fake meat, synthetic meat. They're going to start growing meat in a lab. And so they are saying that because of cows, the cows, they pass gas and they have to boo-boo. They say because of their, the cows passing gas and the cows boo-booing, they're just doing what cows supposed to do. They say that's causing air pollution. And so we got to eliminate the cows now. And they're coming up with a way where they can grow the lab, meat. They can grow meat in a lab. And see, one of the big backers of this is Bill Gates, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, keep your eye on Bill Gates, because Bill Gates is part of this new world order. He's part of this vaccine. Almost anything that happened big on this planet, Bill Gates got something to do with it. And he's buying up all the farmland all over America so that we'll have to buy his meat. Yeah, And so this thing here, ladies and gentlemen, is getting out of hand. And it's not so much real cows. He want to eliminate the real cows. He just want to keep a few cows around. He want that meat that's grown in the lab. But how many of you know man can't grow food like God can grow food? And any food that man grow in a lab gonna cause you health problems. Yeah, we didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, there was no such thing as cancer, a lot of this kind, different forms of cancer and all of that, until the manufacturing age, where we start preserving food in cans and stuff like that, and growing food in labs and stuff like that. Now we got all kind of diseases and what have you that folks 200 years ago didn't have, all because of what man is trying to do. So will climate change force us to stop eating meat? Yeah. Yeah. They working on that right now. As I'm teaching, they're working on that. That brings me to the fourth question. Will climate change force us to eat bugs? Yeah, you heard me right. Will climate change force us to eat bugs? Yeah, I mean, that's going to be part of your cuisine, is the bugs. We had some chocolate bugs, but you don't want to believe me, do you? So watch this.
All right, people eat lots of weird stuff now, but bugs might be the bites of the future.
And that idea from no less than an authority from the United Nations. And for good reason, actually. ABC's Lana Zach is here with more on that. Hey there, Lana. We're talking bugs.
Yes, and it may seem like an extreme dare or a Soylent Green-inspired science fiction, but some experts now say that insects may be on our menu.
What kind of person eats bugs? Dave Gracer does. He advocates eating insects, bringing some to the New York Hall of Science, a bold proposal in the fight against global hunger. He says it could be our future by 2050.
Insects don't have to be gross if we can open our minds.
To keep pace with population growth, experts predict food production will need to double in just 40 years. Insect farming is more environmentally friendly and may even be healthier.
They can be a great source of healthy proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals.
Are those grasshoppers? The United Nations just issued a report touting the environmental and health benefits of eating insects. After all, 2 billion people across the world do. But many of us just can't get over the psychological barrier.
What do they smell like? Yes, of course.
I don't like the way they smell.
Oh, okay. All right.
So there's a little bit of a curry smell, but I think just initially...
It's messing with your head.
It is.
But what if insects were presented as a delicacy? Even lobster, the cockroach of the sea, used to be prisoner food. Perceptions can change when food tastes delicious.
Onions, jalapenos, chapulines.
At Toloache in Manhattan, cricket tacos are gourmet cuisine.
They're really, really delicious. On those little tacos, you get the same protein, you get like 14 ounces of steak.
So with a couple of courageous friends by my side, we overcame our prejudice.
1, 2, 3.
Good. Tastes a little bit like chicken and cheese. Ketchup, please.
Wow.
Bringing a whole new meaning to food for thought.
Not bad at all.
Now, insect farming has the potential to be a food source for humans, but right now those crickets are actually more expensive than filet mignon. Now, that, of course, would change if more people started eating them, which is what the UN says may have to happen in 40 years, which brings us to our dare. Are you up for it?
Well...
I brought you some cricket bars.
Okay, so here's the deal. So you brought...
Do you see, ladies and gentlemen? Bugs, they saying that bugs is our future. Because we got so many people on the planet, we can't feed all these people. So we got to start eating like they eat in these third world countries. In these third world countries, they eat a lot of bugs and what have you. And so they say we got to start eating some bugs. And see, they're turning America today into a third world country. And see, even I could have showed you in different schools and stuff, they are trying to teach these kids that bugs is good for you. Well, see, y'all are looking at me strange. You don't want to believe me, do you? So watch this.
Bugs are gross. They're dirty, they're tiny and annoying, like Gutfeld. But the only time you'll really ever see someone actually eating bugs was like if a kid was getting bullied into it, or someone who got paid to eat them on Fear Factor.
This is so long.
Go for it. Yeah! Yes! You showed me. But bugs are on the menu for the climate crazies, and their crazy ideas are coming to a school near you. A teacher at Spring Canyon Middle School in Utah asked her parents to write an essay, or her students to write an essay on why bugs are better for the environment than eating meat. Kids could get extra credit for eating the bugs. But what if a student wanted to take the opposite stance, that eating meat's okay? Sorry, that wasn't an option. Watch.
How come we can't state our opinion why Americans shouldn't be eating bugs?
Because we don't have any evidence to support it. But should we be eating bugs? Yeah, because we're killing the world by raising cows and animals. So there's only one right answer for this essay, and it's that Americans should be eating bugs. Everyone else in the world's eating them. It's healthy for the environment, and there's only one right answer.
You heard her. There's only one right answer. Bugs are good and beef is bad. Follow the science. Parents got upset and the teacher ended up apologizing, but school officials doubled down and actually defended the assignment. In a statement to Fox News, the school district said this: when the teacher realized there was concern, the student was offered another topic of the student's choice. Remember, this particular assignment is about finding facts versus opinions to support writing an argumentative essay. Our district, schools, and teachers do encourage parents and students to come to us with their concerns. Well, one of those concerned parents and their daughter who took that video, Sage and Amanda Wright, join me now. So, Sage, what kind of bug did the teacher want you guys to eat?
It was a grasshopper.
Ew. And did the other students actually do it for extra credit?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, disgusting. Were they all grossed out?
Some of them liked it, actually.
The boys probably, right?
Yes.
Wow. Now, did you see that? That teacher was trying to persuade that girl that bugs is good for you, and we got to stop eating, cows and meat, and we got to eat some bugs, and that's healthy for you. And the girl didn't even have a choice of whether or not to write on that or write on something else. But she got her mama involved, and but those people at the school, they still are kind of on the crazy side, because they are really into this climate change, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to have to start eating these bugs. Yes, we're going to have to start eating bugs. So that answers the question. Will climate change force us to eat bugs? Yes. Let's go on a little bit further. Does the policies of climate change hurt the poor? Oh, yes, I can answer that. Yes, it hurts the poor. Yeah. For instance, a lot of people can't pass emission tests with their cars and stuff. They take it to get the safety and the emission test, and they can't pass it. See, all of that is dealing with climate change. They're trying to make sure that that your emission is, you're not putting out too much gas through your tailpipe and what have you. And you used to didn't have all of this emission testing and stuff like that. When I first started driving, you just had a safety test. You just drove up and you just tested your lights, your brakes, your windshield wipers, made sure you had good tires and stuff like that. And the man, he was writing out your sticker as he was asking you, okay, turn your windshield wiper on, okay, now touch your brakes and stuff. But today, they getting filthy rich on this emission control and stuff. And it really hurts the poor people, because the poor people, they can't take their cars to the mechanic and get it fixed and that and what have you. And so they have to look around to try to get hot stickers and things like that. You know, Mississippi eliminated that emission control altogether because a lot of the people was getting killed by the police down there and the highway patrol down there. They was pulling people over because they was having expired stickers and stuff. So not only do these policies hurt the poor, it can even kill the poor, ladies and gentlemen. And then you just think about a lot of the jobs industry. I can remember back in the 60s and the 70s, you had all of these, well, actually back in the 50s and 60s, you had all of these companies. Up north was factories. You had the car companies, Ford, General Motors. You had all the car companies up there in Detroit. You had all of the tire companies and stuff there in Ohio. You had steel companies and stuff around East Chicago and Gary, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You had all these steel companies. But when they came in the 70s with all of these environmental stuff and air pollution and all of that, it killed all of them jobs. And these was poor people, ladies and gentlemen, because people, if you couldn't graduate from high school, all you had to do is just go on up north to Chicago. If you had an uncle in Gary, Indiana, or you had somebody in Cleveland, Ohio, you just went up there and worked in a factory, and man, you made good money. But today, there is no more factories up there. There is no more factories up there. But you don't want to believe me, do you? So watch this.
America's steel industry is not what it once was, to put things mildly. You see, the area around the Great Lakes had a moniker, the Rust Belt, because of the sheer amount of steel that came out of the region, followed by a rapid onset of urban decay as the steel mills have gone silent. Many of the population centers have become equally quiet. There is no greater example of this unfortunate development than Gary, Indiana. Once the beating heart of America's thundering industry, it has now become little more than a ghost town. But how did this happen? How did the city that once thrived become so empty? Today, we will find out as we travel through the rise and fall of Gary, Indiana. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. See, that Gary, Indiana used to be the steel capital of the world, ladies and gentlemen. Now look at it. Look at it. Looks like a ghost town. All because of all of this environmental stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, the policies hurt poor people. Yes, it hurts poor people. Well, what about the founder of the Weather Channel? Do he believe in climate change? Because that was one of the things I wanted to know. The guy who started the Weather Channel, do he believe in climate change? Some folks say yes, some folks say no, but let him tell you for himself. So watch this.
Are you real concerned about this global warming?
I'm only concerned about the incredible frenzy and hype for something that's a total myth. That concerns me a lot because people are going hysterical about it. It's amazing to me how upset so many people are, and how many billions of dollars apparently our governments are going to spend of our tax dollars to combat something that isn't real. That has my attention, believe me. As a scientist, I know that global warming doesn't really exist at all in any sense of significance, and that we have nothing to worry about.
Now, are you saying that there hasn't even been any warming?
Well, there's absolutely natural climate fluctuations. We have little ice ages, we have warm-ups. Historically, the Earth has vacillated through all of these. Solar cycles change dramatically. ocean currents change, and all of that has a significant impact on climate, and the building of cities, the flying of airplanes, the existence of all these billions of people on Earth have all influenced the climate of Earth. But none of it is of significance, and thank goodness, things are doing just fine.
So you're not in a panic over the icebergs melting and the sea levels rising? And
I promise you, 20 years from today, I'll be the one that's laughing. The icebergs, the ice caps at the poles are not going to melt. The oceans are not going to flood the coast. People are not going to die. We're not going to have global climate change that cuts off the food supply. We're not going to have thousands of species eliminated as they lose their habitat. None of these things is going to happen. The Earth is the climate's going to change with cycles of the sun and with ocean currents, and we're all going to do just fine.
But Al Gore has a very convincing video out there that seems to show that we're really facing a catastrophe.
I'm very well aware of the hype. The media is full of it every day. Al Gore got the Nobel Peace Prize, an Oscar, and a Grammy, and apparently millions of dollars. Al Gore, I believe, is sincere in his belief, but oh so misguided, as is the entire UN IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
Well, doesn't that bring us to the point that Mr. Gore makes and many others, that science has spoken? There is a universal consensus among scientists.
Well, if you look at the history of the IPCC, it was formed by people whose agendas were of question. And they really wanted to get back at the industrialized nations and get them to pay penance to the third world nations for their pollution of the atmosphere through their industrial activities. It was the little guys picking on the big guys kind of concept, which is very common in the UN. And it was from people who had world government in mind. That history is pretty well documented by an engineer named Alan Cheatham. He has really dug into it. And that panel was, so you create this bureau within the UN on climate change. Well, its mission and its existence then is to prove that there's climate change. So it starts hiring scientists and giving them research money to go out and prove that its mission is valid.
Wow. See, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it for yourself. You heard it out of, as the old folks say, the horse's mouth. The man who even started the Weather Channel, he said, I don't believe in no climate change. He said, man, all you got to do is just study history. You're going to have up and down, up and down. And so it's going to get cold, but then it's going to get back hot. It's going to get cold. It's going to get back hot. It's going to get back cold. It's a pattern. It's a pattern, ladies and gentlemen. So when it get cold, don't be trying to fix it and make it hot. And then when it's hot, don't be trying to fix it and make... See, that's man coming up with something in order to make money. See, these people, Bill Gates and them, they don't want you to eat God's cow, so they're going to come up and make some cow in order for you to buy their cow, rather than buying God's cow. No, we need to be buying God's cow. See, rather than us eating God's watermelon, they want to make watermelon now in a lab. And see, anything that don't have a seed in it, then it ain't no be good for you. No, God put a seed in it, and that's going to be good for you. But let's go on. What does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? That's the question we need to be asking today. What does the Bible say? Number one, God instructs us on what to eat. God tells us what to eat, not Bill Gates, not Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook and Amazon. These billionaires don't tell us what to eat. God tells us what to eat. And God tells us that we're supposed to eat plants and herbs. Look what he says here in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29 and 30. It says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the earth, of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the field, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creep upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given you every green herb for meat. And it was so. So God says, listen, the plant life, the tree life, that's, I put there to preserve your life. That's what you're supposed to eat. So man started out being a vegetarian. But then God says you can eat some meat, some animal meat. Look what it says in Genesis chapter 9, verse 2 through 4. It says, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that move on the earth, and upon all the fish of the sea. Into your hands are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herbs have I given you all things. But the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. So God says you can eat the meat, but don't eat the blood that's in the meat. Yeah, you can eat the meat, but don't be eating it too raw. In other words, what God says there. And so he told Noah, because when Noah came off the boat, everything had been destroyed in the flood. So there was no apple trees and that he could pick off of. There was no collard greens and stuff. Everything had been destroyed in the flood. And so he had to kill some of the animals in order to survive. So that's the first thing that we need to know, is God instructs us on what to eat. But number two, God promised that the world would not be destroyed again by a flood. Genesis chapter 9, verse 8 through 13. And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, and I, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowls of the cattle, and the fowls of the air, of the cattle, of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark, to every beast of the earth. I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God says, this is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And so God said, you don't ever have to worry about a flood again. I promise you that I never will destroy this planet by a flood. So you don't have to worry about, I showed you that a film clip at the beginning about the day after tomorrow. And it was showing all that flooding and stuff. You don't have to worry about that. The world ain't no end like that with no flood. God says, I'm never going to flood this world again. And God says, the way that you're going to know that, I'm going to give you a token. I'm going to put my rainbow up there. I'm going to put my rainbow. And my rainbow is a promise to you that you never have to worry about this earth being flooded with a flood. Genesis chapter 8, verse number 21 to 22 says, and the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from its youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I've done, while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. You don't have to worry about things. You don't have to worry about us destroying this planet. See, they said that we can destroy this planet with our, cars and with our coals and with, by having gas cars, we're going to destroy the planet. No, God says, I promise you, this planet is not going to be destroyed. As long as it's cold and hot and summer and winter, you're going to have day and night will never cease. So believe the Bible, ladies and gentlemen. Number 3, God will destroy this earth and recreate a new one. Man won't do it. Man can't destroy this earth. Now you think about it. God fixed this world. Man can't tear up what God done established. Yeah. Look what Isaiah chapter 34 verses 1 through 4 says. God says, I'm going to be the one to destroy this earth. He says, come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come from it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. He has delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcass, and with the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as a leaf fall off the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree. God says, I'm going to be the one. And God is going to shake the heavens, and the stars and stuff going to fall down just like figs falling off of a fig tree. Look what he says over in Peter, 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 5 through 7, and then verse number 10. He says, for this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. See, he's talking about that flood. Whereby the world that then was being overflowed with water perished. See, that's the flood. But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire. Notice what he says. It's reserved unto fire, not reserved to the flood, against the day of judgment and petition of the ungodly men. Now skip down to verse 10. He says, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Now notice, God says this world is not going to be destroyed by water like it was the first time, but he said this world is on reserve. God says, I got it in reserve. He's keeping this world together to be destroyed by fire. That's why that songwriter said it won't be water, but it's going to be fire next time. And that's what's going to destroy the world. It ain't the global warming. No, it's going to be God's warming. God is going to do it. Look what Psalms 102 verses 25 to 26 says. It says, of old hast thou laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of thy hands. They shall perish, but thou shalt endure. Yea, all of them shall wax old like a garment. As a vesture shall thou change them, and they shall be changed. Now you think about that last part there. This old earth, yeah, it's getting old, but it's going to stay. God says, I got it on reserve. But he says, just like you change out clothes, God says, I'm going to change out this earth. I'm going to change out this world. Yeah. See, God is going to burn up this world, and then he's going to start a brand new world. Look at Isaiah 65:17. It says, for behold, I create a new heaven and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, not even come into mind. Now you think about that. God says, I'm going to do a new heaven and I'm going to do a new earth. And once I get done with it, you're not going to even remember the old heaven or the old earth. Wow, that's something. God is going to just take away all that old stuff that's in your mind. Well, how should we apply this lesson? Two things. Number one, believe the Bible, not the global warming experts. Believe the Bible. Believe the Bible. God says it's not going to be a flood, so you don't have to worry about no flood, and you don't have to worry about no ice age and all of that. You don't have to worry about all of that. No. Because God says it's not going to be destroyed by water, but it's going to be destroyed by fire. So believe the Bible and not the global warming expert. Number two, fear God and not global warming. Fear God. That's what you need to be concerned about. Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and all them other billionaires. See, they are looking at this old world and they are fearful. They are fearful because their money is their God. No, but when the true and the living God is your God, then you don't have to be fearful of your future because God has got your future. Yeah. You don't have to worry about tomorrow when you know who holds tomorrow. Amen. So that's why you just need to put your faith and trust in God, because he will never, ever let you down. All right. That's our lesson for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this lesson. Now take this lesson and use it to bring honor and glory to your name. Now, Lord, bless your people with the blessing they stand in need of, whether it's something physical, spiritual, or financial, whether they need a healing, touch their bodies, heal their bodies, make the bodies whole again. Just touch in a mighty way. And we'll be careful to praise you for it. In Jesus' wonderful name we do pray. Amen. All right. Thank you for joining us. Now listen, stay encouraged. Did you hear what I said? I said stay encouraged. And you have a real good night. And Lord willing, we're going to see you on Sunday. God bless you. Good night.
Victory!